Welcome back to Core Anesthesia. Whether you are a student prepping for tests and boards or a CRNA here to earn CEUs, we are glad you've joined us. For more about us, make sure to check us out on Instagram at Core Anesthesia and online at coreanesthesia.com.
Welcome back to Core Anesthesia. I'm Cole here with Tanner. We're just excited today just to bring on a guest speaker. I'll have Tanner introduce Josh here in a minute. But again, as we like to do every once in a while, bring on a guest speaker, just have a conversation about a topic that somebody else may be more qualified or just has better knowledge about. And we think this is a great conversation to have moving forward. But with all transparency, before we start, Tanner and I usually record these episodes at like 9 o'clock at night after our kids go to bed. And we're doing this in the morning, my time right now. So I have my world's best backstabber coffee mug that I got for Christmas that I'm sipping right now and trying to clear these morning voices out. So if you feel like we're a little drowsy this morning, that is why.
This takes me back to when we recorded during COVID and I would work like a 12-hour shift, and then when I would work night shift. So before I would sleep during the day, and then I'd wake up, and then we record right before I went in. And I think there's like 3 episodes you can go back and listen. I think they were like between like episode like I don't know 20 and 30 or something. But I literally sound like it's like before AI was good AI. It sounds like I'm just a robot that's talking. So hopefully we can get it rolling this morning. But yeah, I'll introduce Dr. Olson. Josh was a super good friend of ours. And I remember the first time we met, it was at the ANA conference in San Diego. And Josh came over to our booth. He was getting ready to present. And he's like, hey, I'd love for you guys to come watch this. I'm going to be talking about my business. And we were like, oh yeah, we'd love to. He told us a little bit about it. And like from moment one of meeting Josh, we were like, okay, this dude's legit. He's awesome. He's not that we're the standard of recognizing awesomeness, but in our world, we were like, this dude is got it. And so super excited to have him on this morning. He is the program director at Detroit Mercy. He also has worked for a long time at Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit. And he is the founder of Ollivate, which is the Duolingo of healthcare education. If you've not used it, you need to. It's incredible and such a genius idea and really cool to see how the business has grown. And we've just loved getting to be kind of like a sounding board and hearing how things have been going. And we're just genuinely interested and intrigued. And yeah, Josh is the real deal. So we're excited to have you on this morning. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, it's really fun to be with you guys. I mean, I feel like, we've had a nice relationship last couple of years. And so that's been really fun. And, obviously, like everybody says to you, you feel like you know somebody when you listen to them all the time. I should make one point of clarification. I am the assistant program director and I am the incoming program director. So that program director is retiring in 3 weeks. And so I will be the program director, but I'm the assistant.
You will be the program director.
Yeah. So just so I'm not misrepresenting myself.
Yes. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
We're off to a great start this morning. This is our voices sound great. Our information is completely off, but our voices sound wonderful.
Our hearts are in it, if nothing else. Our hearts are in it. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. So this morning we're going to talk about basically the NCE, C prep, basically all the things that trying to demystify a lot of it. I think that, the tests are hard enough on their own, and it's going to be really important as you are getting ready to take these that you understand exactly what you're getting into and kind of the thoughts behind it. And so Josh is going to be talking over that. So go ahead.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've taught a board review course for the last number of years for our program. And if you're in CRNA school, you're smart enough to pass the board exam. If you got that far to make it to the board exam, you're smart enough. And so I've found that the issues are typically people have something else going on other than their brilliance that keeps them from being successful. And often it's like anxiety, like there's just so much anxiety about it. And I wanted to list, I think it'd be helpful. I found it's been very helpful for my students to like talk through how it works, what the C is, what the NC is, how they work, how their scoring works. It kind of like takes the power out of it, like Cole and I were talking earlier. It's like getting a diagnosis, for an illness that you don't know what it is. And then you get a diagnosis at like, oh, now I know what I have to do because now I know what I'm dealing with. I think this is kind of like that, the NCE and C are like this black box to so many people. And there's a lot of information out there about it. And it's very helpful, I think, to kind of hear it.
Yeah, I can speak from experience. I have bad test anxiety, and I feel like overall, I've had issues in the past just with settling down and taking a test and taking it straightforward. A lot of times I'll overthink questions, and Cole's been helpful as we were going through school to kind of walk me through some of those things. But I had to employ some like real strategies when I was taking those tests to calm myself down, leave the room, take a walk, take it in chunks. I would take 20, 30 questions at a time. However I felt, I would stop and take a little break. And it was really important for me to have a plan going into it and having an understanding of what I was going to do when I was taking it. So I think this will be extremely helpful. Like you said, if you're in school, you're capable of passing these tests. So yeah, let's dive into it and talk about.
That's a great point that you make about having strategies to like settle yourself and to refocus. And I feel like two things happen. One is you get into an exam. It could be any exam. It could be your exams that you take for your courses. Could be the C or NC. You get into an exam, and a question comes up that you're struggling with, and you start to spiral, and the anxiety builds. And students either don't recognize they're feeling that way, or they don't have a tool or tools to like what to do when they're feeling that way. And so I think having a tool or to say like, okay, when I'm feeling this way, or when I get a question that's like causing me to freak out, and or I'm thinking about a question from 4 questions ago, and now it's causing me not focus on the question I have at hand. What should I do? I like what you said there, like get up and take a walk. Like with the C and NCE, you're actually allowed to at any time pause it and get up and walk around if you want to. You have to put your hand up, you're at a Pearson view, and tell them, but you're welcome to do that. I recommend, I don't know what you did. I'd love to hear what you said, Cole, what your techniques were. One that I teach my students is the stop technique. Are you familiar with that one? Have you guys heard of that one before?
Maybe something similar, but I don't know what type.
Yeah.
So I'm here.
The stop is pretty evidence based. If you're feeling like oh, this is crazy, or I'm spiraling, I'm feeling anxious, or I keep thinking about an old question, I need to focus on this one. The stop technique is really evidence based, and it's simple. You just stop. You take 3 deep breaths, right, to calm yourself. And then you observe something about how you're feeling. Like, what is it that I'm feeling right now? And then proceed. So stop is S is stop. T is take 3 deep breaths. O is observe how you're feeling. And then P is proceed. So stop. And it takes 30 seconds to do that. And it calms yourself, allows some serotonin to be released, to refocus and get back on. That's an easy tool to kind of, if you're someone that struggles with anxiety, to kind of refocus yourself.
Yeah, I love that. Because so many times, from my experience taking tests, you get 1 or 2 questions in a sequence where you feel like you did poorly on, or you second guess yourself after you move forward.
Right.
Then you let it snowball to affect 4 or 5 questions down the road.
Yes, exactly.
Pause, put it behind you, regroup yourself, and move forward. It's like Tanner and I just recorded an episode on mistakes in the OR, and it's like so many times you make a mistake, especially in clinical, or maybe not even a mistake. You miss the intubation at the beginning, and then you're so consumed with that it brings the rest of the day to make 4 or 5 more mistakes moving forward, rather than just leave that where it was and move on to the next phase, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that technique. Don't let one bad question or one bad situation in the test affect the rest of the test moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Athletes and musicians are so good at this, right? You miss a note while you're performing, you just keep going and you forget about it and you don't dwell on it. Or you're a player and you miss an important shot or whatever, you just keep going, and for some reason, graduate students maybe haven't learned those same skills that athletes and musicians have, but it's really important to do that. I think I always start with this conversation with my students to just talk about what the C is, what the NC is, what their purpose are, and kind of what some of their similarities. The first thing that is interesting to talk about is the length of each one. The C is a fixed length. It's 240 questions every time, every situation, every person, regardless of your score, you get 240 questions. Which is different than the NCE. The NCE has a variable length. You don't really know how many questions you have, somewhere between 100 and 170. But the C is 240 every time. And, for a test prep strategy is if you're not used to sitting and taking 240 questions, you should prepare yourself for that. That's hard. Do you guys think you could sit and take 240 questions right now?
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Right? It's hard. And you just sit and stay focused. And I have so many students that get in there and they're like, oh, isn't that I didn't know the material. I just got fatigued. I just got fatigued from answering all these questions. And so, be prepared for that. I think the best way to prepare for taking questions is taking questions, if you're going to, practice like you play. But if you need to get in the habit of taking a lot of questions for long periods of time and sitting there and staying focused, but you're going to get 240 questions. If you take the C, you're going to get 240 questions every time. So don't be surprised. Don't get in there and be like, oh, I just didn't realize it was going to be so hard, like, or to stay focused this long. But you shouldn't be surprised. It's going to take you that long. So practice that. They're both adaptive. Both the C and NCE are adaptive. So even though the C is a fixed length, is 240 questions, the questions are adaptive. So you don't know, the computer doesn't even know what your next question is going to be until you answer the question you're on right now. Each question determines the next question you're going to get, which is, helpful and a little unnerving at the same time. Because if you struggle with a content area, it's going to double down on it. And it's going to say, okay, I'm not sure that Josh knows what he needs to know about regional. So I'm going to ask him a couple more questions. Or the opposite might happen too. And actually, students say this to me all the time. They'll be like, I study so much cardiac and respiratory, and I only got 5 questions. And I'm like, well, the reason we only got 5 is because you got them all right. And it stopped asking you. It's like, okay, this person's mastered the material. I'm not going to ask you anymore. So it's adaptive in that way. It's figuring you out and saying, what do I know they're doing well in, so I can get rid of that? What do I know they flunked in? I can get rid of that. What are the ones I'm unsure about? And it doubles down on those things. The ones that you're kind of in the middle, like, oh, and then they'll double down on that. They don't actually give you their algorithms. We don't totally know what their algorithm is, but we know it's adaptive, and it's as you answer questions right, the questions get harder. And as you get questions wrong, they get easier, whatever that general tool is to measure hardness and easiness of questions. But it is adaptive in that way. So, and also there's, every question, because it's adaptive, every test is different. So there's a test bank of like 12,000 questions they have. So you get 240 of them. I don't know what percentage that is, but it's a pretty small percentage. So your exam is totally different than the next person's exam. So if your classmate comes and tells you, oh, I got a ton of questions on, legal or ethics, doesn't mean you're going to get a ton of questions on them, because the exam is customized to you, is completely adaptive. So you kind of need to know everything, prepare a little bit of everything to do it.
I think that's like such a, in and of itself, a mind game, because I know for myself, like, well, you just said you're taking 2% of the questions. So you have, some people that are saying, oh, I got a lot of this, a lot of that. And you're kind of maybe expecting a little bit of seeing something similar. And then on top of that, if you're not, I couldn't help myself but think, is this question easier? Is this question harder? And I was like trying to evaluate myself while I'm going through the test. And and I think it also goes to show, like, I don't know too many people that walk out of the test and feel like, yeah, I nailed that. And,
right.
and that makes sense if you're talking about it's honing in on the things that you're maybe mid-range or you don't have a lot of knowledge base about. Even if you're answering some of them correctly, it probably feels a little just like off when you're taking a lot of things that you're not super familiar with. And so, I think that even if you're, taking the minimum number of questions, I still feel like those people walk out of the test feeling like, ugh, that was. It wasn't quite it, and it's so interesting and good to point out, and a total another mind game that you have to be aware of and prepare for, to focus on the questions and not trying to figure out the test the whole time.
Like it's going to be what it's going to be. Just answer. I have students that get 500s in something on these exams, and they walk out and like, that was so hard.
Yeah.
Like, you got a 512. Like, how could it be that hard? You crushed it. But it was so hard because it's adaptive, and it's figuring you out. So you can't figure that out. Just keep going. Answer the next question and keep moving on.
Well, it's backwards of what you would anticipate, right? You have to like switch your mindset on it. Like, if it's a super easy question, I would be more concerned if I'm getting multiple questions.
Yeah.
You want these challenging questions. That means, oh, yeah, I'm doing great if I'm getting
them. If you're getting a bunch of questions wrong, or you think you're getting them wrong, or you're not sure, it's maybe it's a good sign. Although if you've mastered a concept, maybe it's just an easy question for you because you've mastered the concept. Who knows? It's like almost impossible to figure that out if it's a hard one or easy one. But you just keep going and moving on from it.
It's a losing game.
That was my only who's taking the NCE, is because I felt like every question. Well, you're used to your regular test through school. There's a certain percentage of those questions that are like low-hanging fruit, drop out. questions, and our brains are used to having those a certain percentage of those questions on an exam just to help reassure us that I at least know I'm getting 50% of these questions correct, and now I'm making educated guesses moving forward. Whereas on the NCE, I felt like 90% of my questions I had to make educated guesses on. They weren't like, boom, drop in a bucket, that is right.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the mental game, at least that I hear a lot of people struggle with, is we're not
yep,
used to that type of a test. But that's a good sign, as you're pointing out, if you're getting
yeah,
those questions.
yeah. Stay focused to give the best answer you can and move forward. That's exactly right. Yeah. Now the NCE has a variable length, so the board exam itself it could be anywhere between 100 and 170 questions. Now, what's interesting is, with that, most people, about like 60% of people, pass within the first 200 questions. But the other people that pass after that. So you could be as little as 100 questions. It could be as many as 170. But just because it didn't shut off at 100 doesn't mean you're not in the game. You still have a good chance of passing that thing. It just hasn't figured you out yet. It's trying to figure out if you have met the bare minimum standard for safe practice. And maybe it's figured you out in 100 questions, and so it shuts off for good or for bad. But maybe it hasn't. And so it keeps going, trying to figure out. But you're still in the game. So if you're a student who's taking the NCE and you get to that 100th question and you hit it and there's a 101st question, don't panic. Like, that's totally okay. Totally normal. Lots of people get more than 100 questions. Just keep going. It means that you still are in the game. It's not sure. It hasn't made a decision on you yet. It wants to make a decision, but it hasn't made a decision. So you're still in the game. So keep going, keep staying focused, and keep moving forward.
This guy took 170 questions.
Boom.
And
Yeah.
I remember going all the way to the end, and I'm on question 170. And I'm like, so is this the one? Is this the question? Like,
That's going to determine it? Yeah.
Yeah. Am I like in sudden death in a penalty kick? And this is like, I have to make this question or I'm done.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing in undergrad, by the way. I took every question on the NCLEX. And I remember just sitting there thinking, like, oh man, it all comes down to this. And I passed, but I did take all 170 questions. And so
Yeah.
I remember going from 100 to 101 and just being like, okay, like, this is what it is. Okay, this is, obviously I'm hopeful it's shutting off at 100. It's not. And so I remember taking a break and coming back in and kind of regrouping and just going after it. But in the back of your mind, every question you're thinking, maybe it's going to shut off. Like, at any moment it could shut off. And I remember getting all the way to 170, and yeah, it was nerve wracking for sure. But my story is that I took 170 and I passed. Like,
You do. Yeah.
I was in all the way to the end. And so yeah, don't let 101 say, oh, I'm out of this. You can be in it all the way to the end.
Yeah. Our old program director, who did that for like 30 years, he said, just prepare yourself to take 170. And every time I'm going to get 170 questions on the NCE, and I'm ready for it. And if I get less than that, maybe it's a bonus, but I'm prepared to take 170. So you're not prepared to take 100, you're prepared to take 170.
Yeah.
And if it's less than that, then there's it's a bonus for you.
Yeah. You have time to grab coffee. That's great.
That's right. Yeah. What's interesting about both the C and NCE is that there's some questions on there that don't count. They're non-graded. On the NCE, it's 30. So 30 questions every time are non-graded. They're like tester questions. They're trying to figure out if these are good enough questions to use them in actual practice, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, because you might get a 100-question exam and be done, for good or for bad, but only 70 of them count. So it's only 70 questions out of all the material you studied in anesthesia school for 3 years. And they can figure you out in 70 questions. And I guess the computer's that smart where it can figure you out in 70 questions. But every time, 30 questions of them don't count.
That's crazy. So
Right.
30 of those questions then are all of those 30 in the first 100 in case it would shut off? Or do they kind of know halfway through, this person might not shut off at 100, so we're going to...
Actually, they don't publish that, so I don't know. I assume what you said is true, that they were in the first 100, but I don't know the answer to that. But I assume that that's true. They don't actually tell us that information, but I assume it's true. One interesting point, too, we should make about the length of the exam is there's this rumor I hear from students every once in a while that some random people get all 170 questions. Not true. Like that is not a thing. That there are no people that get just randomly assigned that you get the short straw and you get stuck with 170. So prepare yourself for 170 because it's a good test taking strategy, but nobody's randomly chosen, which would be horrible, right? That would be so unfair if you were randomly chosen to be one of those people to do that.
I'm still going to tell my mom that I was one of the random persons that got picked for
right, got chosen.
Yeah.
Tell your mom that. I agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can edit that part of this podcast out so your mom doesn't hear. The C also has tester questions. There's 40 tester questions in that one. So really only 200 of those questions actually count. They have the C and NC have the same content outline, but the amounts for each content, the four main domains in the content outline are different. The C, they're all worth the same, 25% for all the four domains. But for the NCE, they're weighted differently. The biggest being general principles of anesthesia is worth 35% of the score. That's why the C, it's one of the reasons why the C isn't a perfect representation of how you're going to do in the NCE. So the C is supposed to be a way for you to kind of measure how you're doing, what you've learned. It's a way for the programs to kind of measure how they're doing with their students, how well are they educating, and to kind of give you a practice sense. Like, what does this exam feel like? How does it feel to go to the testing center? How does it feel to register? So hopefully those anxieties are gone for the board exam, the NCE, because you practice it with the C. The NBCRNA explicitly says the C is not supposed to be used as a tool for students to progress through a program. So I know that's common where programs say, oh, you have to get this score to go to year 3, or to graduate, you got to get this score or whatever. But the NBCRNA says, no, you're not supposed to do it that way. It's supposed to be just a way for the students to kind of judge how they're doing. The score on the C, doesn't perfectly correlate with an NCE score, but a score of 430 on the C has a very high correlation to first-time board pass rate. So that's why a lot of programs have said, we really want you to get a 430. Maybe they don't require it, but they want you to get a 430 because there's a high pass rate correlation between that and the board exam. So a lot of programs shoot for that. And that's always a good goal for you to kind of shoot for.
Have you, with talking with other program directors, are the majority of schools doing that, having some benchmark? Or
so whether or not it's a passing standard to continue on in the program, the majority of schools are not doing that. Some are, the majority are not. But most programs have some goal that they want students to achieve. They say, we really want you to hit this. And so maybe it means you have to take it more than once or twice or 3 times to do it. To get to that score. But I think most programs are saying we're really trying to get you to get to a 430 or 450 or whatever before you stop taking it. But doesn't necessarily, just because they're doing it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't graduate or complete the program or continue on. It just means you got to maybe keep taking it until you do get that score. Interesting. This is kind of the hot buzz topic today in the education circles. Is the NBCRNA released just last week new standards that said, going to effect this September, that said there's a maximum number of times of 4 that a student should be allowed to take the C, and they have to have a 90-day window in between each time. So if you take the C, you can't tell them they have to take it again in a week. You need to have a 90-day plan to prep and prepare for the degree taking it. And you can't make them take it more than 4 times. Now, this has not gone into effect yet, but it's kind of all the buzz right now in the education community because they sent us all the program directors like, hey, this is what we're going to, this change. And so everybody's kind of a buzz about it because a lot of programs, have said, oh, we make them take it unlimited times until they get a certain score or whatever. Now we can't do that. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes people's programs going forward.
Yeah. This September, you said that goes into effect?
Yeah, that goes into effect in September. So unless they change their minds, which they met with faculty yesterday, and we're going to meet again in ANA, and so in Nashville. So we'll see if they may change their minds. It certainly is possible if they get a lot of feedback from program directors, but that's how they want us to use it.
Interesting. I'm curious how that changes because I know a couple schools that you do need a minimum score before they allow you to take boards, and so they just have you keep taking it again and again until you hit benchmark, and then they'll unlock for you to go ahead and take boards. I'm curious how that changes are.
Yeah, that will certainly change it for them. No, if that goes into effect, that'll certainly change it for them. They will have to change their plan. And I get where they're coming from, because we want all of our students to pass the board exam on the first try. That's the way that we're measured by the Council on Accreditation, and so we're very incentivized to make that happen. And this is the tool that we can use to do that. But it's the NBCRNA doesn't want it to be used that way. So it's a little bit of conflicting ideals. And so we'll figure it out. That's not on the students to figure out. The students just have to prepare and study, but we'll figure it out and make it through, for them. Another difference between the two is the cost, which is why I think if I'm a student and I'm not sure how it's going, I'd rather take the C another time before taking the NCE. The C is $240 and this NCE is $1,100. So how much was it when you guys took it?
It was about
Do you guys
$1,000.
remember?
Yeah, I think it was about 1,000.
Yeah.
The 970s jumping in my mind.
Yeah, I think it was like a little less than 1,000. I think, and they just changed the price, so it's expensive. You got to pay for school for 3 years, and then you have no income, and then you got to pay $1,100. Yeah. But if you're going to risk it, if you're not sure, and you have another chance to take the C, I'd rather take the C and risk $240 than risk $1,100. For sure. One thing I think that's helpful to hear is that 85% of people pass the NC the first time, and I find that students who don't pass the first time, it isn't because they're not smart enough. It isn't because they're not capable, because they all are smart and capable. It's because things happened outside of their control, that maybe they couldn't study as much as they wanted to. Maybe they're just in a bad headspace that day because there's something that happened between them and their significant other, or something in their lives, or this is what I hear all the time. Student graduates and then they move across the country for a job and then take the NCE. And it's like, well, don't do that. Like, you're not going to be a great spot. Like, haven't gone to this big move and transition, so put yourself in a good headspace. You can cancel and reschedule up to 24 hours without any penalty for your NCE. So if you think you're not ready for whatever reason, whether it's emotional, personal, whatever reason, or you just haven't studied enough, then just reschedule it. There's no harm in that. It you're not penalized as long as you do it within 24 hours before taking it. So I recommend that to everybody. If you think you're not ready for whatever reason, or you have some crazy life event or big transition, just postpone it. Kick that can down the road a little bit.
Do you have a recommendation for Cole and I both? We graduated on a Sunday and we both took it on a Friday. And in our minds, we were like, hey, we know this, we're in this material while we're in school. We have been prepping while we're, finishing up clinicals and those types of things. I think my last clinical day was literally a call shift from Friday going into Saturday, and then we'll graduate on Sunday. And then we took it on that next Friday. But in my mind, I was like, I want to stay in this mode as much as possible and go right into it. Talking with people, we don't really hear that that's a very common idea, that some people will wait, even several months before they take it. Do you have a recommendation on kind of how long you should wait, or what feels like a good fit for most people?
Well, it's different for everybody, but you're right. There's a correlation between how soon you take it after graduation and your success. Like, taking it sooner after graduation is better. I wouldn't recommend that anybody will wait longer than a month to take it. That doesn't seem wise at all. Like you said, you're in this material all the time when you're in anesthesia school. Right. Even if you're not reading a book every day, you're thinking about it and processing it and making clinical decisions about it. So you're in that mode and that mindset. And the further you get away from that, the further we get. And you think about some of the material that you learn the first year. If you're not refreshing that all the time, the longer you get away from that, it gets just longer and longer, 3 years away. I mean, it's just going to more and more fade away from your brain. So for sure, you want to take it, the soonest that you're ready. Now, not everybody's ready the Friday after graduation. So if you're not ready, that's okay. You can, give yourself, maybe a couple extra weeks to hammer it out and say, I want to get through this material or refresh these things, or I just emotionally be in a better place. But don't wait longer than a month to take it. Prep the whole time. I tell all my students, the day you get accepted to anesthesia school, you should start studying a little bit for boards.
Yeah.
Like just start that day, and then the whole day study for boards. And by the time the board exam comes, you don't need to study. You've been like in this mindset the whole time, and it kind of works that way for most people. You're kind of studying the whole time anyway, and but I don't recommend that you wait. And there's good data to support that. That waiting, waiting too long doesn't help you.
Yeah, it's helpful.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts too with, I know some programs, or at least it seems from what I've been told by different residents throughout the country, that their programs are set up where they actually take it before they graduate, like a week or two before they graduate. Is there a certain, like, so obviously you don't need to have your diploma before you can take it then, right? Like, is it just director?
Right. There is. So that's interesting. That's an interesting comment. And I don't know how much we want to get in the weeds, but there's a difference between your graduation and meeting the requirements of graduation. So the Council on Accreditation says you can't take the board exam until you've met the requirements of graduation. And there's the biggest things are passing all your classes. And then the case requirements. So you have all these cases you have to get, you guys, I'm sure, filled out all kinds of logs and tracked everything and how many hours. Once you've met the criteria for graduation, whatever your criteria for graduation is for your program, along with the Council on Accreditation's requirements, your program director can authorize you to take the test. So they could do that. If you've met all of the requirements, you got a passing grade, but your graduation maybe isn't until December or something, and you're finishing now in August or July, you could potentially be made to be eligible to pass the test. Like, we have students that, have they've met all the requirements now. And the minute we submit their final grades, they met the requirements for graduation, even they may have a week left of clinical. And so they could take the exam right away. So it depends on the program, how they want to handle it. But as long as they met all the requirements for graduation that Council on Accreditation requires, the program director can authorize them to test. We often have students who will finish clinical, or have their last day of clinical on a Friday and take it Saturday morning. That's really common, Actually, this is a great story. I had a student last year. Were we in San Diego? Was San Diego last year? Indian AANA? Was that last year? Okay.
Yeah.
When you get old, it all kind of blends together. But last year, he went to San Diego. And he was graduating, but he went to San Diego. We authorized him to test on Thursday, and we're in Michigan, but he was in San Diego. I authorized him to test on Thursday. He gets the notification. He's at the San Diego Zoo, and he's with his wife, and he's like, "Oh, I'm authorized to test. Let me see if I can get a testing date." So he looks at Michigan, and he's like, "I can't get a testing date for like 2 weeks. I want to take it now." Well, there's one in San Diego tomorrow. I'll just take it here.
Come on.
And he went, and no joke. And I'm at the conference, and he texts me. He's like, "Dr. Olson, come meet me at the AANA Foundation booth," because he was working at the booth. He's like, "Guess I'm going to show you."
Yeah.
And he has his papers, his thing. I mean, how is this
Awesome.
possible? He's like, "I took it this morning." You took it here in San Diego? Like this? You're crazy. And he's like, "I was ready." And so, if you're ready, just take it. Just knock it out.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
super.
So much of it at that point just becomes the mental side of it. Because as you've been saying, if you've made it this far through school, you're ready from an academic standpoint. It's more, I think, just preparing yourself mentally to be in the best shape. And for some people, it's don't overthink it and just do it, right?
You made it this far.
For me, especially, I remember I didn't have very many problems passing classes going through school, and there should have been no reason academically that I wasn't going to pass, but emotionally and mentally, I was psyching myself out that I was going to pass. And I think so much of it for me was I've invested so much time and energy and money into this journey. And if I can't get this final test done with, if I can't pass this final test, all of it was for nothing. I put my family in so much debt, so much financial debt, but also just time spent away from family. I missed the first 3 years of my kid's life. Like everything seemed to come together for me. And I just remember the week leading up to the test, I was freaking out thinking I have to pass this. Otherwise it was all for nothing. And my wife had to keep reassuring me. She's like, "Cole, you've passed everything up to this point. There's no reason to think like you're not going to pass." But I remember that place that I was in, and it does become a very emotional, accumulation of everything that you've sacrificed to that one moment. So I love what you've been saying on that. Academically, if you've made it this far, it's now just preparing yourself. I mean, obviously you got to sharpen yourself and study some things, but it's preparing yourself emotionally. I think that is such a big thing that people often overlook.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. You can do it. And I see a lot of burnout at the end. That students fatigue. It's just so hard. And I love what you said about that. Like, how does it all come down to this one exam? And they get fatigued, right? It's like a sprint for 3 years. How can you sprint for 3 years? You just can't. And at the end, they just have no motivation to study, and that's a trap. That's a trap that I see. It's like it's not that you're anxious about the exam necessarily. That is very common, but it's that you're just fatigued and you don't have motivation to study anymore. It's like I just can't. I don't want to even like get up at 6 in the morning and do a workout, let alone study for
Right.
6 hours.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest traps I see people do. So I often recommend that my students take a break. Take a break from studying. Maybe 2 months before you graduate, take 2 weeks off. Don't study a thing. Just just go to clinical or maybe take a vacation from clinical. Don't look at it all and
Yeah.
give yourself time to refresh and recharge. I actually, this year, we'll see how it goes. I had my students take a month off. Don't study for a month. Like, just take a break,
Yeah.
refresh yourself. And then when it gets time to study in, a month or two before graduation, you'll be in a good place. Hopefully be refreshed. And so, cause it's so fatiguing. And, to your other point, Cole, this is a bigger conversation for another time probably, but I wonder, like, is it even fair to say, okay, you've been through anesthesia school, you passed all the didactics, you've been in clinical, gave a state anesthetic for 3 years, but you have to answer these 70 questions. And if you don't get the 70 questions to the score that we want, you're obviously not safe to practice. It's like,
You're
is
right.
that really a good standard? I don't know. It's the tool that we have
Yeah.
to measure this, to protect the people, to protect the population from people that aren't safe to practice. But it doesn't seem like a just system, to be honest, to be like, okay, it all comes down to these 70 questions.
Right.
But it doesn't. You have multiple chances. I tell my students, in some ways, this is one of the lowest stakes exams that you'll take because they've had exams in their program where if they bombed the exam, they'd be out. They'd be done.
Mhm.
Their career as a CRNA would be over, but not the case with the NCE. You get 8 tries. So you could bomb it and that's okay. It costs you $1,100, but that's all right. You could take it. You have tomorrow. The sun will come up tomorrow and we can do it, which isn't always the case for exams. You have exams in your program that are much higher stakes, but you put so much weight on this exam, but you get 8 chances, man. So you'll be okay. It's going to be all right. You'll
That's a
figure
great
it out.
perspective. I mean, I think that like depowers the whole thing, and
Yeah.
you exactly said it. There's plenty of tests while you're in school that it's like you might be on the line with a grade or you have to have it or it's a big final or something and that could be it. And I don't think we typically think that way while we're going through school. You're in it, you're thinking you're just gonna move past that test, but for some reason we have such a finality mindset with the NCE, and so yeah, that's a helpful paradigm shift, I think. I know going back to your rest, I that was something that Cole and I implemented, not to the extent that you're talking about, but I remember the day before we took the day off. Like we
Yeah.
sat really, really hard throughout that week. And the day before I was like, I need to reset because I've been going, it's like your brain is, like any other muscle, you're fatigued. You've been working out all week and then you need a day to rest, to reset before you go in. I think that night before I went over some things that, were memorization things that weren't concepts. I felt like I had understood all the concepts, but it was things like, clotting cascade or nerve bundles or something like that I just wanted to refresh and make sure I knew some of the memorization things. But that day before, I remember my wife and I remember we going for a walk in this park and I just tried to disconnect from it as much as possible because I knew I was exhausted and I needed a little break before going in. I think that was just as powerful as spending probably more powerful than spending 8 hours just diving through textbooks and having your eyes glaze over and trying to absorb more information when you're already at full capacity. So yeah, I think I'm so glad you brought that up because I think the culture is kind of like grind until you can't and then go take it. And our bodies need that rest, need that reset and need that time to kind of recalibrate before we go back into it.
Yeah, you're a human being, right? You're not a
Right.
machine.
Yeah.
And like, what are the odds that the day before the exam, those 8 hours that you study that you're going to even get one question from what you covered on that 8. It's 12,000 questions in that test bank. What are the odds? Would you get one maybe that you didn't already know?
Sure.
So the utility even of just taking the day off and be like, I'm going to reset myself and take the day and refresh it. And actually, there is good brain science that the stuff gets cemented in your brain when you take a break from it from a while. So that's why you sleep, right? It cements things in your memory. You can wash the things away that you don't need, and it cements the things that you do need. So taking a break before the day before the exam is beautiful. I mean, it's such a great strategy. If you think there's something that you haven't learned and you're going to finally learn it that one day before the exam, odds are really low that that's the case.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great
I think
point.
students need, like permission to do that. It's, it feels like, again, you need to just keep hammering away at it. And it's like, here's your permission, take a break, take a rest. And, you're not being lazy. You're not checking out. This is a beneficial thing for you to take a break.
Well, I think too, so many times we forget that our brain is a muscle. And so I was a runner in college, and whenever we would have our invitational cross-country races on Saturday mornings, that Friday I wasn't out doing a long tempo workout. I'm not going to go just strenuously push my body. I recover my body so I'm prepped to go that Saturday.
It's a great analogy. Yeah, great analogy.
So yeah, to your point, let's say over the 8 hours, if I work really hard, maybe one question I didn't know I'm going to get. But what I'm risking is that I overwork my brain the day before and I miss out on 5 questions that I would have gotten correct that I now miss because I'm so fatigued. And so I think the risk to reward ratio is just, you need to be well rested and well prepped and have your brain in the best potential spot to do well for you the morning you click open on that first question.
Yeah. That's a really good study tool. One thing that's helpful to know too is actually I encourage everybody. So all of your listeners should go to the NBCRNA's website, and you can read about the C and NC. You can read about how they work. They tell you everything. They tell you exactly how it works, how people do, the scores they get. They tell you so much detail. And there's practice exams on there that show you how this exam works. They show you different types of questions. There's obviously multiple choice questions. There's the multiples or multiple correct response questions, that check all that apply that everybody hates. There's calculation questions, which end up being like short answer questions. There's drag and drop, where you have to kind of like matching, where you drag things in, and there's hot spots. You go to the NBCRNA website, which everybody should do before they take the C or NC, and they give you practice exams, so you can see what the exam feels like, how it looks, how the software interface happens, and give yourself a chance to kind of fool around with those.
Yeah. So what's your favorite style of question? Do you like the hotspot ones, or like from your students that you hear from, like what kind of questions do they enjoy having?
Oh, I know they don't like the multiples. They hate the multiple or select all that apply. They hate those ones. Actually, what's nice about the C and NCE is they'll tell you how many you have to click. So that's the one nice thing about it, is they'll say select 3 or select 2 or select, God forbid, select 4. So you know how many you have to pick, as opposed to the ones that just say select all that apply and you're guessing how many are the right ones. At least they tell you that. So I know they all hate those ones. Those are the least favorite ones. I'm not sure. I think the one they like the most is the drag and drop matching ones. But and they're obviously the most used to the multiple choice ones. But I don't. I'd be curious to know what the ones they like the most.
I always really enjoyed the hotspot, like the picture one. Like that was a nice change of pace. I just enjoyed that. But then I like the matching ones too, because I felt like you could use some process of elimination. Like if you didn't know two of them, you at least, like if you knew one of them right away, you could get that one right. And I felt like I had a higher percentage chance of getting something right moving forward on those matching ones than I did on just a potential multiple choice question I had no idea what the answer was, and I'm just guess at it, right? But no, I personally enjoyed the changing of questions, because it just broke up the 100 monotonous multiple choice questions at a minimum that you would have. But I know I've shared this before, but I do want to share the story that I had during my NCE exam. So as Tanner mentioned, we graduated on a Sunday. We graduated in December, and so we were both trying to get our tests done before Christmas. And that way we could go into the holiday season just done completely, just not having to worry about studying, just have that passed and we could just
Yeah.
So I think it was December 12th, 2021 that we graduated, whatever that Sunday would have been. And so we were planning to take it later that week then. So it would have been the late teens in December. So the week before Christmas. And there was a small little testing center in the courthouse in our main city where I live at. And I signed up, and one other person in my class signed up. It was another girl in our class, and she was always there ahead, like, of me. Like, I was always like flying in by the seat of my pants to things. That's just my personality. And I tried not to do that for the NCE. I don't recommend doing that for anybody. The last thing you want is to be rushing to this exam and already feel like you're partway late. So I still got there like 15 minutes early, but she was already in the test taking it, just already going. And so she's the only one in there. So then the proctor gets me all set up. I walk in, I sit down, I start taking the test. I get to question 75, and I don't know if it's just a coincidence because that's when the NCLEX shuts off. I believe it's 75 is when the NCLEX shuts off. But I got to that question, and I remember I had A selected, and then I changed my mind, and I wanted to change it to D. So I clicked D. It wouldn't let me change it. I tried. I could not change the answer. It was locked in at A. And so I'm like, well, it is what it is. So I clicked next to go to the next question. It would not go to the next question. The timer I could see still ticking on the top right corner, but I couldn't do anything on my screen. So I hit the raise hand button. A minute or two goes by. The proctor's not seeing it. So finally, and at that point too, our colleague had already gotten up. She had already finished the exam and left. She was a really fast test taker. So she's already out. So I'm the only one in here. I know she's waiting for me out there to see what I got and if I passed or not. And I don't know if she passed. So
I
finally,
mean, your test anxiety at this point must be through the roof.
oh yeah, sure.
I mean, it's crazy.
So I get up.
I would have left completely and just shut down the exam myself. I think that would have been it from Tanner.
So I go to the window and I knock on the window and like wave to the proctor. He comes in and I'm like, hey, like I can't do anything. My test is like frozen. So he tries messing with it and he's like, huh. So he went out to his like main computer. He worked on it for like 5 minutes and he goes, I got bad news. He goes, we lost complete connection with like Pearson or whoever the company was that it was all connected to. He goes, I have nothing. And so he goes, I need to bring some IT person up, reset the whole system. It's going to take probably 3 or 4 hours to reset this thing. And you're probably going to come back on a different date to complete your test. And we don't have any more openings now until after Christmas. So I'm like, oh.
You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. That is crazy.
Yeah, here I'm like one of like the biggest tests I've taken up to this point. But I know we're debunking that. It's not as big of a test as we're making it sound like. But at that moment, it felt like everything was accumulating on this point for me. So I walk out in the hallway. I'm like, well, I'm going to give it a couple minutes to see if you can figure out how to fix it while I'm just going to walk for a couple minutes. So I walk out into the hallway. There's my friend, Rachel, and she's holding up her pass test. She goes, did you pass? I passed. And I'm like, no, I can't talk. I'm frustrated. Like, I just start walking down the hallway. I just pacing back and forth. And I'm like, all right. I said a prayer. Like, God, please help this to work out. And I walked back in and the IT person miraculously got it to fix. I don't know what he did, but he made it work.
Oh, thank goodness.
So that took about 20 minutes for this whole process to happen. I walked back in. The timer still went down 20 minutes on my test, but everything was back where it was. So then I was on question 76, and I'm like, I'm not risking this shutting down again and losing connection. And I just hauled it through the last 25 questions. And thank the Lord it shut off at 100 questions, and I was done. I passed, and I moved on. But man, that was one of the most stressful situations taking the exam, though, that I've ever had.
That is so crazy. I feel like the NBCRNA owes you a cup of coffee or a drink or something. That is nuts. Thank goodness you passed. If you hadn't passed, I'd feel like that would be such an injustice,
Cheers. And just more the fact that I would have had to wait till after the holidays then. So I would over me going through the holiday season. And so yeah. And then I was thinking I was going to be the one getting done the latest because Tanner started the exact same time that I did at a different state.
That true? I wish that was true, Cole.
175 questions later for Tanner.
170. Thank you.
So yeah. Anyway, I don't know if that helps anybody to know that I had a rough experience with it. So if you have any weird issues come up, know that it's not going to define your test. You can.
Yeah. Or define you as a person, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, anything else, Josh, that you want to add before we wrap up?
No, this was really great. Thanks for having me. And, I said it before, but to all your student listeners out there, resident listeners out there, Like you can do this. Like you can make this happen. Like you can pass it. If you're in anesthesia school, you got the chops. Like you can make this happen and be successful. So remind yourself of that. Like you deserve to be here. You deserve to be. You've earned this up to this point, and you've earned your chance. You've proven by getting the chance to even take the NCE. You've proven you can do it, right? Not everybody even gets into CRNA school, let alone passes and get through CRNA school and a chance to take the exam. You did all that. You did all the work. Now you just got 70 questions to prove yourself, or 170 questions to prove yourself. But you could do it. You all can do it.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add to that. That was perfectly said, and I think that's a great way to end the show. I did want, before we let you go, Josh, can you give us a little more information about your company, Ollivate, and kind of what the what the resident learner can expect from it, what the CRNA is looking for CEUs can expect from it? We have been using it and in and around it, so we feel a lot of respect for the company and for the product. But we'd love to hear from you. And for those that maybe don't know about the product, maybe just a couple key points about it, and we'd love for you to share that. If you don't know about it, you got to know about it.
Yeah, Ollivate we built it a way for you to interact with the material in a fun and engaging way. We actually got the idea for Ollivate from Duolingo. If any of you listeners have played Duolingo, we've kind of built a Duolingo, but it has anesthesia content in it. So if you're prepping for the board exam, if you're studying for your classes, come play a game and enjoy the content as you interact with it. It's actually good research on this, that if you enjoy the content or having fun with it, your ability to learn it is much better, right? If you're relaxed in a calm and meaningful state of mind, you can learn it much better. So it's Ollivate, it's Ollivate. You can find us in the App Store. You can go to our website. It's free to play. So, your listeners can give it a try and play along. You'll see the map screen on there, just similar like to the Duolingo. And there's over 6,000 questions in there that you can play along, quests, leaderboards, all those fun things. We do have a CE product coming out in the next couple of weeks. So we'll launch that at Nashville. So CRNAs who are interested will be able to play along and earn CEs as they play. So super fun. We're really proud of it. And it's fun to see people interact with it for the first time, because they're like, whoa, this is so great. How could somebody think of this earlier?
Yeah, that's so fun. I remember when we heard your first pitch, we were like, okay, this is it. This is awesome. I am now realizing that I'm saying Ollivate, not Ollivate, which feels like when Cole didn't know how to pronounce my last name for the first 2 years that we worked together. So I'm getting a taste of my own medicine. So that Ollivate, I'll say it correctly from now on.
Also, guys, if you enjoyed having Josh on here, he is going to be speaking at our Core Anesthesia conference this fall. September 20th, I believe, is the date for that. We're going to be releasing that here in a couple of days. So Josh is going to be talking on AI and how AI can affect just our clinical practice, right?
Yeah, AI, a lot of talking AI. We've done a lot of research at U of D on the use of AI, and a lot of tools coming into the operating room that utilize and leverage AI. So we're going to be talking about that.
Perfect. So yeah, we look forward to having you, Josh. Again, that is going to be September 20th. We'll be releasing some information about sign up for that. Thanks, Josh.